Before these words begin, understand what they are. What you are about to hear is not commentary about God. It is what I hear the Spirit placing on my heart for you in this moment. These are not the words of someone speaking about God from the outside. These are the words of the one who formed you before you had a name, spoken now, because the time has come for you to know what is already moving in your direction. Chosen one, sit down, not as a figure of speech. Wherever you are right now, let your body settle, let your shoulders drop, let your hands rest open on whatever they are resting on. Because what I am about to say cannot be received in a moving body or a striving mind. What is coming toward your life cannot be caught, it can only be received. And receiving requires a posture that the world around you has spent years training you out of. So sit down, be still, and listen to what I have been waiting to say to you. You have been carrying something for a long time now. Not only the weight of hard circumstances, though those have been real, heavy, and specific, you have been carrying the weight of not knowing whether any of it meant anything. The weight of faithfulness in silence. The weight of prayers spoken into rooms that felt empty. The weight of mornings where you chose to keep going when nothing in your visible world gave you a reason to. I have seen every one of those mornings. Every one. And I need you to hear me when I say this. Not one of them was wasted. You are not here by accident. Something larger than coincidence guided you to this message, to these words, to this precise moment in your life. And before this ends, you will understand not only what is coming toward you, but why it was worth every season of endurance you have walked through to receive it. Because what is about to hit your life is not a small thing. It is not a partial thing. It is not a manageable, comfortable, fits neatly into your current life kind of thing. What is moving in your direction right now is massive, and you are going to need both hands open to hold it. There is a knowing that has been rising in you. Slowly at first, then with a kind of quiet urgency that does not quite match what your circumstances are showing you. A sensing that something is near, that the atmosphere around your life has shifted in a way that your logic cannot fully explain. But your spirit has already confirmed. You have been trying to find words for it, trying to understand whether what you feel is genuine faith or wishful thinking. I want to answer that now. What you have been sensing is neither wishful thinking nor delusion. What you have been sensing is the advanced signal of what is coming. The way the air changes before the rain arrives. The way the room gets unusually quiet before someone important walks through the door. That is what you have been feeling. And you have been sensing it correctly. Some of you have noticed a change in the quality of your prayers. You stopped asking for things the way you used to. Something in you stopped negotiating with heaven and started resting in it. You did not engineer that shift. It happened to you slowly and without your deciding it. And when it came, you wondered whether you had given up, whether your faith had gone passive, whether you were simply too exhausted to ask anymore. I want you to release that fear right now. What happened in your prayer life is not exhaustion. It is arrival. You stopped striving in prayer in the same season I began moving in preparation. Those two things are not coincidental. They are coordinated. You cannot receive what your hands are white-knuckling. The open hand is not weaker than the closed one. The open hand is the one that receives. There are those of you who have pulled away from people this season, not out of bitterness, not out of pride, but out of a quiet, internal instruction that told you the room you are entering next does not require the same crowd that has been around you. You have felt the guilt of that pulling back. You have questioned yourself. You have asked whether something is wrong with you, whether you are isolating in an unhealthy way. Nothing is wrong with you. You were being set apart. There is a difference between being alone and being set apart. One is the absence of belonging. The other is the preparation for a different kind of belonging. What is waiting on the other side of the separation is a community of people whose frequency matches the season you are entering, not the one you are leaving. The pulling away was not disconnection. It was navigation. Type 777 if your spirit just confirmed what I said, because the one who orchestrated that pulling away wants you to know it was intentional, and it is nearly finished. Others of you are experiencing what feels like a contradiction, a deep peace alongside a grief that is not entirely attached to anything specific. You grieve the old version of your life, not because it was always good, but because it was known. And there is grief in every ending, even the ones that are good, even the ones you were asking for. I do not minimize that. I honor it. But here is what that combination of peace and grief actually means. What is ending is not your story. What is ending is the chapter that was too small for what I have written next. The grief is the book closing on a chapter, and the chapter that opens now is not a revision of the previous one. It is an entirely different story, at an entirely different scale. Some of you have been marked by unusual dreams in this season. Not frightening ones, but sacred ones. Dreams where something was spoken or shown that you woke up carrying in your chest for days, unable to fully describe to anyone, unable to fully dismiss. You have been reluctant to mention them because you did not want to seem dramatic or strange. Do not dismiss them. I speak in the night to the ones I am preparing for morning seasons. The dreams you have been having are not your imagination constructing comfort for itself. They are briefings. You are being shown the outline of what is coming before it fully arrives. And there is this. Most of you listening right now have been in a waiting that has become woven into your identity. You have been in it so long that you are not entirely sure who you are outside of it. The waiting has become your address. Part of what is about to change is not just what arrives, it is who you are when it arrives. Because the waiting season was not only about what I was building toward you, it was about what I was building in you. And that is the part I want to show you now. What I am describing is not a random collection of signs I am asking you to interpret generously. I am naming a pattern. The pulling away from what no longer fits. The shift in prayer. The sacred dreams. The grief without a specific object. The strange peace that defies logic. The sensing of nearness that has been increasing. All of it is pointing to one reality. You are standing at the threshold of the most significant season you have lived yet. And I brought you to this message so you would know it before it arrives, rather than only after. You have been listening for a while now. You are still here. That is not trivial. The ones this message is for do not scroll past it. They stay, and something in you already knows why. You are still here. There is something specific I want to address about the sensing of nearness itself. Many of you have been living in a quiet tension between two contradictory feelings. The first is the sensing that something significant is coming, that your life is on the edge of a real shift. The second is the exhaustion of having sensed that before, and then watched months or years pass without the arrival that was felt as near. You have been burned by hopeful sensing before, and now you carry the sensing alongside a protective layer that says, do not let it mean too much in case it does not come. I want to speak to that protective skepticism with love. The previous senses of nearness that did not result in what you expected were not false. They were real. What arrived simply did not match the form of your expectation. You were sensing movement correctly and interpreting it through the grid of what you were picturing. This time the sensing is different. Not louder, not more dramatic, quieter, more settled, more like knowing than hoping. That quality of quiet certainty is characteristic of a season that is genuinely at the door. Some of you have been feeling in recent weeks or months that something has been working on your behalf in the invisible, not only in the emotional sense of feeling cared for, but in the structural sense. The sense that arrangements are being made, that pieces are being moved, that your name is being spoken in rooms you have not yet been invited into. That sense is accurate. Your spirit is receiving information about what is actually happening in the unseen dimension of your life right now. You are not hoping your way into this season. You were carried into it. The outside of your life has not yet matched the inside experience. To the people around you, nothing appears to be changing in ways they can see. But inside you, there is movement that has no visible evidence yet, a pressure that is not pain, a weight that is not burden. And the reason the outside has not caught up to the inside is not that I am slow, it is that I am thorough. What I am building in your direction cannot be rushed without breaking. The blessing that is coming requires the person receiving it to be a specific size, and the process that produces that size takes the time it takes. What I am telling you now is that the process is nearly complete. The formation is almost finished, and when it finishes, what has been prepared in your direction will be released. When the massive thing hits your life, and you will understand something you cannot fully understand from inside the waiting. You will understand that the reason it is massive is not only because of what is arriving. It is massive because the person receiving it has been made large enough to hold it without being broken by it. The blessing and the carrier are matched. I waited to release this in your direction because I was waiting for you to become the one capable of stewarding it without losing yourself in it. You have become that one. There was a woman. Her name was Mary. She was young and ordinary by every visible measure. There was nothing in her circumstances that suggested she had been shortlisted for what was about to be asked of her. She had no formal credentials, no position of influence, no evidence that the appointment she was about to receive made practical sense from a human vantage point. And then, without warning, without a preparation period she could point to, without any earthly credential to anchor her response in, a message arrived. Not a negotiation, not a contract with conditions, not a detailed plan with contingencies and exit strategies. Just an announcement. You have found favor. You are going to carry something that has never been carried before. And her response, the response that changed everything, was not a question about her qualifications. It was not a request for more time to get ready. It was the simplest and most powerful word in the language of faith. Let it be to me as you have said. In that yielding, in that single act of surrender rather than management, the impossible began to be constructed inside her. And I want you to understand something specific about the sequence of that story. The preparation did not happen before the announcement. The preparation happened because of the announcement. The favor activated the formation. She was not formed first and then appointed. She was appointed first and the forming followed. This is the sequence I work in. It will unsettle the part of you that has been trying to qualify first, to clean up your life before asking for the assignment, to become worthy before expecting the word. That is not the sequence. What is coming in your direction was decided before you were qualified for it. And the qualification has been happening inside the calling, not before it. What I have been forming in you is not the result of your achieving. It is the result of your yielding. Every time you surrendered instead of forcing, every time you stayed in the room that offered no visible reward, every time you prayed instead of maneuvering the situation yourself. Those were not performances of discipline. They were moments of formation. The kind that does not announce itself while it is happening. The kind that only becomes visible when something large enough arrives to prove what has been built. I want to name what was being built in each specific hard season, because I think you deserve to know what the difficulty was for. In the seasons of loneliness, I was forming your rootedness. The ability to be grounded in something deeper than belonging to any particular person or circle. so that when the people of your next season arrive, you will not need them desperately. You will receive them freely. In the seasons of rejection, I was forming your discernment, the ability to recognize what is aligned with your calling versus what is simply familiar and comfortable. In the seasons of financial restriction, I was forming your faith in provision that does not originate from your own ability to generate it, so that when abundance arrives, you will know it came from beyond your own effort, and you will hold it with open hands rather than white knuckles. In the seasons of delayed answers, I was forming your capacity to trust a timeline that is not yours, and that does not require your understanding to be effective. Every limitation was a laboratory. Every closed door was a classroom. The curriculum was not punishment. It was preparation. The Hebrew word for this specific process is saraf. It means to refine by fire, to apply heat until what is not essential has been removed, and what remains is pure. The goldsmith does not place gold in the fire, because the gold is flawed beyond use. The goldsmith places gold in the fire, because it is valuable enough to be worth the purification. You were not placed in the difficulty because you are broken. You were placed in the difficulty because what is in you is worth the process of refinement. That lie has followed you through every hard season. The lie that says the difficulty is evidence of your deficit. That if you were more spiritual, more aligned, more faithful, things would be easier. Receive this now. The fire is not evidence of my displeasure. The fire is evidence of my investment. I do not invest the fire in what I do not value. Take one real breath here. Not as a breathing exercise, but one honest breath. Let what has been spoken settle into your body before the next layer arrives. You do not have to solve anything right now. You do not have to figure out the next step. You just have to receive what is being said and let it land. Type the words, "I see it." If something shifted in you during this part of the message, let that be your receipt for what your spirit just acknowledged. There is something I want to speak to now that touches the practical architecture of how the human mind is designed to receive what I give. Because there is a dimension to what this message is moving toward that is not only spiritual in the abstract, it is also specific in the literal sense of how your brain was designed to work and what has suppressed that design in you. I want to name it now because naming it will change something. What you have been sensing as the block is not only a spiritual condition, it is also a frequency. The way your brain has been trained to operate through years of striving and proving and constant calculation has suppressed the specific neural state in which reception happens. Not achievement, not performance. Reception. The open channel. And there is something 3,300 years old that was built to address exactly that. A sound architecture preserved within the Vedic tradition, carried unbroken from temple to teacher to student across 33 centuries. That restores the channel the striving frequency has closed. For those whose spirit has been pulling toward this kind of restoration, there is a path that has been placed specifically for you. It is in the description and the pinned comment below this message. Not a demand, a door, only for those whose spirit says yes. There is more I will share about this before this message ends. Now, return with me to the formation, because the most important part of it has not yet been named. What is being assembled in you is the specific capacity to hold what is coming without being undone by it. Because massive things require a massive container, and the formation you have been through, all of it, every season and every closed door and every delay, was the process of expanding that container. You are not behind, you are exactly where the formation required you to be, and it is finished. The principle I want to teach you now is one of the most misunderstood in the whole architecture of how I provide. Most people believe that what arrives in their life is proportional to what they deserved or earned, that the blessing is the wage for the spiritual performance. And I want you to release that framework entirely. Because what is coming toward you is not wages. It is not a return on investment. It is not commensurate with your effort or your spiritual resume. What is coming is a gift. And a gift is not proportional to the recipient. A gift is proportional to the giver. What is about to arrive in your life is massive. Not because you earned something massive. It is massive because the one giving it has no shortage, no ceiling, no ledger to balance. I give from the full measure of what I am capable of giving. And what I am capable of giving has no limit you could calculate from where you are standing. I want to name 3 convergences that are moving toward you simultaneously. Not because convergences always arrive in threes, but because these 3 specific streams have been preparing at the same time, and they are about to arrive at the same intersection of your life. The first is a relational alignment. People who carry the frequency of your next season are already in motion toward your life. They may not look like what you have pictured. They may not arrive through the channels you have been watching. But they carry something that is specifically required for where you are going. And you will recognize them not through logic, but through peace. There will be a meeting, or there has already been one, where something in you said, "This is for this season." That recognition was not imaginary, that was navigation. Pay attention to who brings peace, rather than pressure when they enter your environment. The second is the opening of a provision channel you have not been watching. This is characteristic of how I work in breakthrough seasons. I allow the door you have been staring at to remain closed long enough that your attention is forced to shift. And in that moment of the shift, you see the door I actually prepared. The provision for your next season is already sourced. It is already in motion toward you. Your task is not to create it or manufacture it or negotiate for it. Your task is to be in an open posture when it arrives. And you are in that posture right now, more than you have been in a long time. The third is the restoration of something taken from you without your permission. Something you mourned and then made peace with. Something you closed the chapter on because holding it open was too painful. I need you to understand that making peace with a loss is not the same as accepting its permanence. Some things are taken in one season precisely so that I can return a better version of them in another. What you lost was not the final version. What is being returned to you is the version that could not have been given to the you who existed when it was first taken. It needed a larger, more seasoned carrier. The restoration is not a replica. It is an upgrade, and it is on its way. There is a fourth thing I want to name that does not fit neatly into the category of blessing. It fits more accurately into the category of installation. In the season opening before you, you are going to begin operating from an authority you have not had access to before. Not positional authority, not the kind that requires a platform or title or institution. Spiritual authority, the kind that arrives in someone who has been through the fire and came out carrying something real, the kind that makes a room quiet when you enter it. Not because you are performing authority, but because the weight of what you carry is discernible to every spirit in the room. That authority is being installed in you now. You will recognize it not by feeling powerful, but by noticing that what you say lands at a deeper level than you intended. That is the weight of what was built in you through every season of the formation, arriving through your voice. Gently press the like button, not for anything except so this message finds one more person who is in the middle of the long silence and does not yet know it is about to break. Before I show you the specific path that was placed for this season, let me speak one more clear and grounded sentence. Because I want what comes next to land in a rational, settled part of you, rather than an emotional one that has been swirling. Here is the clear ground. You have been in an intentional formation season. The waiting was not wasted. The preparation is complete. The capacity you carry now is matched to what is coming. That is the why. And the what has an ancient and practical shape that I want to show you. Here is what is true after everything this message has been building toward. You were made to receive, not only to strive. The way your brain was designed, before the world trained it otherwise, is toward an open channel of reception, a state of alpha activation that the Vedic sages spent 3,300 years preserving. The pathway back to modern striving, the constant calculation and proving and noise, suppresses that state. But the suppression is not permanent, it can be reversed. The ancient pathway to restoring it still exists. That is the practical dimension, and the who is you. The one whose formation is finished, the one whose hands are opening, 3,300 years ago, in temples whose stones still stand, the Hindu sages tuned a sound, not for ceremony, not for performance, but for one precise purpose: to open the channel through which what had been promised could finally be received. They understood, long before any modern instrument existed to measure it, that there was a specific state of the human mind in which receiving happened freely, and a different state in which it was blocked completely. They called the open state the receiving channel, the doorway, the posture of the child. They called the blocked state the noise of striving, the closed fist, the frequency of constant reaching without resting. And they built a sound architecture precisely designed to dissolve the striving noise and restore the receiving channel. They preserved it in 9 words and in a specific sonic structure that carried their discovery from teacher to student, generation to generation, unbroken across 33 centuries of human history. What those sages called the receiving channel, modern instruments now measure as alpha activation. What they called the striving noise, modern instruments now measure as beta hyperactivity. The ancient names and the modern measurements are looking at the same reality from different centuries with different vocabulary. A modern listener, whose name will not be spoken here, because the lineage speaks louder than any individual person, left the noise of conventional striving and spent decades listening for what the Vedic tradition was still carrying. He found the 9-word script intact. He found the sound architecture preserved. He brought both into a form the modern ear could receive. He called it the wealth signal, a 5-minute audio that uses the binaural sound architecture the Vedic sages encoded, combined with the 9-word script passed down through their lineage, to deactivate beta hyperactivity and restore alpha activation, to dissolve the striving frequency that blocks reception and restore the state that was dimmed in you, not by your failure, but by the noise of the world you were born into. Ask and it shall be given. That was never a description of earning. It was always a description of posture. The ones who receive are not the ones who strive more intensely. They are the ones whose channel is open. The wealth signal is the ancient path back to the open channel, back to the posture of the child the scripture described, back to the state where what was promised can finally land. What alpha does in the brain, the Vedic sages understood as the posture of the one who has not yet learned to doubt the provision of the Father. The wealth signal restores that posture in the most practical, literal, 5-minute way available to you right now. Over 19,500 people have walked through this pathway. Those who continue, which is more than 95 out of every 100, do not describe dramatic, sudden events as the primary change. They describe a change in the baseline, a quieter internal environment, a shift in what begins arriving, not because they took on more effort, but because the channel through which things arrive was restored. The signal was always there. The noise was covering it. The regular price is $49. For those this message is for, it is $39. 4 additional materials are included alongside the audio, materials whose combined value exceeds $338, included at no added cost. The path is in the description and the pinned comment below this message. It is there for those whose spirit says yes. Not a pressure, not a deadline, a provision, the kind I place with precision for a specific kind of person at a specific kind of threshold. This one. Before you access anything from the description, verify the source carefully. The legitimate path carries exactly what was described here. There are imitations wherever genuine paths exist. Do not let confusion divert what was placed specifically for you. The authentic door is in the description and in the pinned comment. Those are the only two locations. For those whose spirit was moved by what was just shared, the door is open, and it will remain open for all who are continuing this message. There is still more to receive here. I need to name something now that lives quietly inside most chosen ones who are standing at this exact threshold. It is not a spiritual enemy from outside. It is an internal pattern that has protected you faithfully through every hard season, and is now, at this precise moment, in danger of becoming the only thing standing between you and the massive thing. Its name is unworthiness, not the loud, theatrical kind, the quiet kind, the kind that says yes in your mouth and not quite in your heart. It shows up as minimizing, as explaining away the confirming signs, as telling yourself you are probably reading too much into things, as a reflexive inability to fully receive a word of blessing or a divine promise, without immediately constructing the footnote, as a tendency to feel more comfortable being the one who serves than the one who receives, as an almost automatic deflection of anything that positions you as someone worth the full measure of the promise. This pattern did not develop from nowhere. In some season of your life, needing was unsafe, wanting was unwelcome. Taking up space in proportion to your actual size was punished or ignored, and your nervous system, which is designed to protect you above all else, learned to remain smaller than your blessing, so that neither the arrival nor the absence of the blessing could break you. But that protection has completed its purpose. It is no longer protection, it is the only obstacle remaining, and I am asking you to release it, not all at once. Just enough to let what is massive actually land, without your immediately constructing a reason. It probably does not mean what it clearly means. You are allowed to receive. You are allowed to occupy the full size of the life that was prepared for you before you had a name. You are allowed to be the one the blessing finds, not only the one who passes blessings to others. You are allowed to say yes to the promise, without the quiet asterisk. You are allowed to believe that the word was specific enough to include you. You are allowed to stop making yourself smaller than your calling, in order to feel safer than your circumstances. You are allowed to outgrow the smallness that the hard seasons taught you as a survival strategy. That smallness served you then. It will not serve you in what is coming. And you do not owe your former smallness a permanent home in your life. Type the words "I receive" if something in you just agreed to let the protection go. Let that be the declaration that begins the unlocking. There is still one more thing before this closes, something about who you actually are. Not as a performance and not as a set of circumstances, but as an assignment. You are the light bearer, the one who enters rooms that have forgotten what it feels like to have light, and whose presence alone shifts what was dark, without your doing anything deliberate to produce the effect. You have known this your whole life, without having clean language for it. You leave conversations differently than you find them. You see what is possible in people long before they see it in themselves. That is not a personality trait. That is a function. A specific assigned function. It is why certain people seek you in their hardest moments. Even when they cannot explain the impulse, you are the voice. The one who speaks what others are feeling, but cannot articulate. There are things you say in your most unguarded, honest moments that unlock something in the people around you that give language to grief or hope or confusion that was sitting there without words. That is not fortunate phrasing. That is a function of assignment. Your voice was given to you not as a personal asset, but as a provision for every person you are assigned to reach. When you silence it out of smallness or fear, or a sense of insufficient authority, the ones who needed your words go without them. You are the cycle breaker. What was repeated in the generations before you, and in the community around you, stops with you. Not because you decided to be exceptional, but because you were placed at this specific intersection of history and family, and geography and time, to be the one who looks at the pattern and says, "This is where it ends." That is not a burden. That is the most specific, most carefully tailored honor I give. These are not affirmations you are meant to speak to yourself until you believe them. These are descriptions. The assignment is not something you earn, it is something you are. And what is coming toward your life is not a reward for carrying it. It is the resource that equips you to carry it at the full scale it was always meant to be carried. I want to do something with you before we close. In your mind, stand up. Not in the room you are currently in the version of your life that exists on the other side of what is coming. Picture yourself there, not the version still waiting, but the version that has already received. Stand in that feeling. Feel what it is like to no longer be in the waiting room. Feel the open hands, the settled eyes, the quiet that is not emptiness but is fullness. Notice that this version still looks like you and sounds like you. The difference is not in the appearance. The difference is in the frequency, the internal environment, the absence of the striving noise, and the presence of what was always there beneath it. That version of you is not imaginary. That is the destination I have been building toward through every season you have endured. And the distance between where you are now and where that version is has never been shorter. Chosen one, I want to close this message with what I have most wanted to say to you. Not a summary, not an instruction. The thing itself. I see you. Not the version that performs and manages and holds everything together for the people around you. Not the version that shows up when the circumstances cooperate. The version that is alone and tired and carrying something too specific to explain to anyone. The version that has been faithful in the dark, in the silence, in the long stretch of mornings where choosing to continue cost more than anyone will ever fully know. That version. That is the one I love most fiercely. And that version was seen. Every single moment of it was seen. You were not forgotten in the silence. You were preserved in it. The forgotten are invisible to everyone, including the one who made them. The preserved are hidden for a season because what is being built in them requires protection from exposure before it is ready. Your obscurity was protection. Your waiting was construction, and the construction is finished. Now I speak over you, not because you earned a word, but because this word belongs to you, and the time has come for you to receive it. You are the one who was made for this moment, not a different moment, not a more convenient or better resourced version of this moment. This exact one. With the specific history you carry, and the specific things you have survived and held and prayed and refused to abandon. This combination, this exact version of a person at this exact place in time, is the one for which what is coming was prepared. You are not too late. You are not behind. You are right on time for something that required precisely the version of you that exists right now. Release what was taken from you without permission. Release the years of carrying weight in visible silence. Release the accumulation of closed doors. Release the grief of the almost breakthrough, the almost open door, the season that turned out to be a waiting room instead of the entrance. Release all of it, let it go. Not because it did not matter, but because you cannot hold the past and receive the future simultaneously. The hands that are holding what was cannot also hold what is coming. What was taken from you in the seasons you do not like to revisit is being returned. Every year of confusion that felt like subtraction from your life was not subtraction, it was investment. And investment returns with increase. The accounting of your life does not look the way you have been calculating it. What you have been counting as lost time, I have been counting as formation time. Formation time is not lost. It is the most productive time in the entire arc of a calling. You are not a person who survived hard seasons and came out diminished. You are a person who survived hard seasons and came out expanded. More capable, more rooted, more specifically equipped for the assignment than any version of you that arrived without the formation could ever have been. That is who I made you to be. That is who you are. And the massive thing coming in your direction was designed for exactly this version of you. Type the words, "I am ready," with everything in you. Let that declaration be the agreement between you and the one who formed you and preserved you, and has been building toward your next season with the same care that was used to form you before your first breath. And now the quiet. Let what was spoken land. Feel it move from the surface of your hearing down into the places in you that have been waiting for permission to believe again. You are not leaving this message unchanged. Something was spoken over you that cannot be unspoken. Something was named in you that cannot be unnamed. Something shifted in you during this time that your circumstances have not yet caught up to, but will. One more thing before you go. You did not stay this entire time because you had nothing else to do. You stayed because something in you recognized that this was specifically yours. And I want to honor that. If this message brought confirmation to something you have been sensing, if it gave language to a grief or a hope you have been carrying without words, if it brought peace to something that was unsettled, let your like be your agreement. Not for anything or anyone, but as a declaration for yourself that you received what was placed here for you. If there is more of this kind of word that you want to receive as each season changes, stay connected. There are more words being prepared for what is coming next. What was spoken here is a door into more, not the last word. For those who were moved by what was shared about restoring the frequency of reception, about the 3,300-year Vedic tradition, and the modern path built from it, the door is in the description and the pinned comment. It is there. It does not expire. When your spirit confirms it in a quiet moment, that is the right moment. And before you leave, one more thing. If someone came to mind while you were listening today, someone who has been unusually quiet lately, someone who has been pulling back from everyone and cannot fully explain why, someone who looks steady on the outside, but you sense something heavier is happening beneath the surface, text this to them. Send it by whatever path you have, because this message might be the one that tells them that what they are enduring is not punishment. It is preparation, and the preparation is almost finished, and the massive thing is moving toward them too. They deserve to hear that. You are not leaving a message. You are leaving a season. Go be exactly who you were always made to be.